those things. I'm really good at this whole YouTube thing. Can't you don't you realize that?
What's going on, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Bropinions Sans Georgia 3. He is away for a little while. He is taking a trip to Scotland, so shouts out to Georgia 3. I am joined with our residential John the Stone.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, Georgia is taking a little trip across the pond, as they say. So,
Yeah, overseas, world traveler.
yeah. Never would have guessed it growing up, but hey, Georgia is now in Scotland. Actually, Texas last night said he was in Amsterdam, and knowing him, I can only imagine the shenanigans that he's getting himself into there. So,
Yeah, in Amsterdam for sure. He might get in a little trouble there, but
right.
hey, Bropinions is international now, so
Yeah, Bropinions
keep
worldwide.
us on the up and up.
Bropinions worldwide, right? So naturally, with Georgia not here, we're going to spend a 45-minute expose on why Stetson Bennett will not succeed in the NFL.
Too short, too small.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's like Drew Brees, but if Drew Brees didn't have any arm talent.
I was reading I forget the site that it was, but it was that one I sent you guys about the like prospect profile or whatever for Stetson, and that basically the summary is exactly what it said. It's like if Drew Brees wasn't like as accurate. So I don't know. I mean, personally, like all jokes aside, I think he will get drafted. I think it'll be in the 5 to 7 range, like Georgia has said before, and I think he'll be a backup somewhere. As a Georgia fan, I mean, part of me hopes that he does get his shot, but I just see a lot. I see a lot of obstacles in his way, and he definitely has the mentality to fight through it. But time will tell, as they say. So.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like this. I feel like the odds are stacked against him. There are very few like quarterbacks his size, especially, that have had success in the NFL. And when I think of those guys, I mean, we think of guys like Drew Brees. We think of guys like maybe Kyler Murray. They're way more athletic. I mean, Drew Brees could run the ball when he was a younger guy. Kyler Murray's super fast. Their arm strength was there. I think Stetson could absolutely carve out a decent career as a backup. I just don't see him being a starter in the NFL. Canadian League, XFL, maybe. Who knows? I mean, professional football is professional football. If you're a pro, you're a pro. So at the end of the day,
right,
that's still accomplishing.
We're sitting here saying he's going to be a good backup, but at the end of the day, you're still playing in the NFL. So I mean, like, props to you. Yeah.
If I could pick, I would be a career NFL backup. I mean, like 14 years in the league, you play maybe 10 games total. You get paid hundreds of thousands to begin with, and then millions as your career goes on. It's just like. That's the best position in football. That's the best position in all of sports, 100%. The backup QB. That's who I'm jealous of.
Yeah, same. No, I would 100% do that as well. So, but today, for today's episode, we got just some news and updates from around the worldwide world of sports. So let's dive into the NFL. And it's Combine Week, man. We made it. The first major off-season event, sustains us a little bit, for NFL news. And none of the fun stuff has happened yet. We're actually going to recap it and talk about our favorite incoming rookies next week. But just so you're all aware, important times to know of. So like right now, Combine Week has started. They're going through all of the press conferences, the team meetings, and all like the medical stuff. They're doing all those things over these first few days. But then tomorrow is when the fun stuff starts. So tomorrow at 3 Eastern, we have the D linemen and the linebackers. Their workouts, their events and things will be televised, I believe, on NFL Network. And then same for the defensive backs Friday at 3. But then Saturday and Sunday is the really good stuff. Saturday is QB, wide receiver, tight end, which as a fantasy person, I'm very much looking forward to. And that's 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And then we have running backs and O-line Sunday at 1. So that's just the schedule of the fun stuff to watch for you guys if you want to check that out. And then, yeah, like I said, next week we'll touch on our favorite rookies and takeaways from that. So
Yeah, I mean, as a Falcons fan, I'm probably watching it all because we need
Everything.
everything. So it's like, hey, any one of these guys could be a Falcon next year, so I'm going to be watching it all. Yeah, I mean, definitely looking forward to it, looking to see who has some crazy performances. I know there's some folks that are specifically training to try to beat the combine records and stuff like that, and that's always fun to watch for sure. Even if it's not like a guy who's like super good. I mean, I think John Ross had a really crazy 4.3 a while ago, and then he's kind of faded into obscurity since. But I mean, it's still interesting to see those combine warriors and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's always fun, especially if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. You get so hyped about all these rookies coming in, and then these guys show out at the combine, a handful of them, but then they just ends up like it doesn't materialize, and I was reading one of my favorite analysts, JJ Zacharyson over at Late Round QB. He was talking about how draft, like where these guys get drafted, matters just as much, if not more, than their athletic profile. And I 100% agree with that, because I mean, you can be the best athlete in the world and you'll still find success, but if you don't go to the right scheme, if there's not the right fit and the usage isn't there, then your career is not going to be what it could have been. So
absolutely, ask a guy like Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Right, if the right place matters, because I don't think anybody was super high on him coming out of college. I mean, I personally don't think he was even close to the caliber of player he is now when he was out of college, but he got to the right system, he got under the right coaches, they developed him, and dude took him to a Super Bowl last year. So
yeah, no, 100%.
About that right situation.
Yeah, so that's why, it's fun to watch the combine, but then it's even more fun to see these guys get excited. And then on draft night, if they go to a team that they're going to ball out on, that's what's really exciting to me. So yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that.
Absolutely.
Next piece of news. This is very unfortunate, but this actually broke like an hour ago. But the Athens being Athens, Georgia, police officials have issued arrest warrants for defensive tackle Jalen Carter. He was implicated by police for racing in the crash that took the life of a former teammate, UGA staffer, which we touched on a few episodes ago when it happened. I mean, obviously this is a tragic thing, that car accident that the community is still kind of reeling and regrouping from. But for Jalen Carter to be implicated potentially in that, it's definitely not a good look for him, especially, I mean, like right at the beginning of Combine Week. It's the timing, and then just, I mean, the situation overall is just really unfortunate for him. And
yeah, I remember seeing somebody had alluded to a while ago that he had some character issues, right? And they said that there was going to be some character issue stuff that happened before the draft. I'm wondering if this is what it was. But I mean, like you said, it's a horrible situation. Like, obviously, two people lost their lives tragically. It's a horrible thing. I don't really want to touch on that. I'm not super happy with the situation. I gotta be honest, and I'm not a Georgia fan. You know what I mean? It's just like, it feels to me like they're trying to blame him for it, because it's like, even if he was street racing, which of course is against the law, don't street race, but it's like, who of us hasn't at some point? You know what I mean? Like, we all thought we were Paul Walker when we were 16 years old. I mean, but I don't know. I don't really like them putting bigger implications on this, because at the end of the day, the person driving the other car also had to engage in this behavior for this to have happened. If this is what happened, again, these are accusations. Nothing's been proven, so I'm not going to sit here and say that this is even what happened. But, if this is what happened, it's kind of disgusting to me that it's being framed in a way that, like, it's his fault, when it's like, he lost people that he cared about as well. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that he was street racing with somebody that he wasn't friends with. And it's like, that really sucks. It's like, obviously he shouldn't have been doing it, but it's like, to sort of have those broader implications that this is maybe the reason why, it's kind of disgusting. I mean, it's like, at the end of the day, like I said, the other participants, if this was a street racing incident, had to have chosen to do it themselves. So it's like, it's not Jalen Carter's fault that they decided to participate, right? If he was street racing, he deserves to get punished for his actions, but I don't think it should be anything more than that. And if he drops in the draft, I think teams are stupid. I think teams are dumb.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with everything you said. I don't like that it's kind of being framed, and I also thought the timing was very weird.
Yeah, it seems very, very reminiscent to what was the guy who he was smoking weed and he had the gas mask on his face, and then that video got released like a day before the draft, and he was supposed to be a huge name.
Yeah.
I think he ended up having a great career, but it's like still at the same time, like the timing is weird. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, I forget. I'm trying to find it right. Oh, Laramie Tunsil.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah, Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I thought the timing was weird. I agree with everything you said. I don't think he should be. I think the implications that they're kind of like poking at are disgusting, like you said. So we'll move on. In actual NFL news, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are planning to release running back Leonard Fournette when the new league year starts on March 15th. That's an important date, by the way, because March 15th, mid-March, is typically when a lot of NFL free agency happens, because a lot of these contracts stipulate things based on the league year. So, if actions need to take place before the end of this league year, it's usually these first couple weeks of March. And then if they need to wait for whatever reason to the next league year, it's usually the last couple weeks. So March is an exciting time from a NFL free agency standpoint because of that March 15th date. So the rumor and the news alert was that the Bucs are going to release Leonard Fournette on March 15th when the new league year starts, and that the Giants are also going to release wide receiver Kenny Golladay when the new league year starts on the 15th as well. I want to say I'm not surprised by the Giants releasing Kenny Golladay. But then, I mean, like, think about how bad their wide receiver situation is right now, and then they still are like, nah, dude, you're out. we don't want you.
It's so strange. I mean, it's like I was a huge fan of Golladay in Detroit. I thought he put up solid numbers fantasy-wise. He was a good receiver for Stafford. And I thought he would be fine in New York if they gave him a quarterback, which, did they ever? I mean, is Daniel Jones the guy? I mean, New York doesn't even seem to be confident that he's the guy. I mean, can you blame Golladay? I just wonder what really happened. I mean, was it a thing where him and the coach just didn't get along? Was it a situation of him just not doing his job in practice? Was it, I'm interested to know. I mean, physically, obviously, he has the tools to succeed. I mean, he succeeded in Detroit, right? Detroit is not the place for, quality wide receivers, apart from Calvin Johnson, really, and who they have now.
Right.
But, when he was there, he was kind of their whole offense. I mean, it's like the guy has the skill. I mean, I'm curious to see if he'll rebound, bounce back with another team, and maybe, show out. But very weird stint in New York. I'm definitely not surprised he's gone. But like you said, who else are they going to field? Who are they going to put out there at wideout?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, like you said, he did very well in Detroit. So I think when he got signed by New York, I was pretty high on him at the time, and yeah, it hasn't worked out there. I think he's dealt with a lot of injuries while he was there too. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the last we see of him. But I also again wouldn't be surprised if he gets signed by, like the Bears or some other wide receiver needy team. Maybe he just needs a fresh start, like you said. So, we'll see.
Atlanta, Arthur Smith, give him a call. I mean, as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, you could do worse.
Yeah, well, and he's also like a veteran guy. So, if you have a young team, kind of like the Falcons do, a lot of young receivers, it might be worth to bring him in, not even for the numbers, but just for the experience that he brings. So.
And he'd be cheap. He'd be a lot cheaper than he was when the Giants paid him. I think, was it like $70 million?
Yeah.
Or like 40 mil or something like that. He hit a pretty stupid contract. So it was like, he got money, didn't show out. Like you said, I could very, very well see this being the end of his career. But like you said, I also could see a team picking him up, maybe mid-season if they get injured, or maybe this offseason. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. I think the same with Fournette. I think he's been a serviceable back past couple of years. I could definitely see him doing well in a committee. Maybe again like a team like Atlanta. Realistically, he could do well as like a backup to Algier. I could definitely see it. I mean, plenty of other teams that need running backs in the league, but I think Terry Fontenot came out this week and specifically said that they're thinking about adding to that position. So
yeah, I agree on Fournette too. I think to me what this says is that the Buccaneers are gearing up to fully commit to this rebuild that they're in now that Brady's retired. They're gonna release Fournette. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, one of those two, not both, and try to start in this rebuild. And I think that's where they're at there. And I think this is just another indicator that they're moving in that direction.
Yeah, I think them, the Saints, and the Panthers are all in the negative as far as cap space is concerned. So correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that they've still got some cap casualty. I know the Panthers and Saints are at least, or the Buccaneers and Saints, not the Panthers. I don't know about the Panthers, but the Bucks, just like the Saints, they've got to clear some cap space. I think Leonard Fournette was one of those cap casualties. I think we'll see some guys get traded. I think we'll see some guys that are surprising releases get released as well. I think they'll probably just commit to the young talent they have and then just move from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Rashad White is no slouch. I mean, we saw at the end of last year, he kind of took over that backfield. So, I mean, I think they'll be fine. They may bring somebody else in just as, like a backup. I think they still have Gio Bernard, but, they could, let him go too. So, yeah, I think they'll be fine at that position. I think this is more so, just an indicator that they're kind of committing to this rebuild. And, I can't find it, but I think you're right. I think they're not as bad off as the Panthers and Saints are with cap space, at least. So, speaking of running backs, so go ahead.
I was gonna say let's go ahead and move on to some of the divas. Aaron Rodgers has emerged from the cave that he was in for a week. Derek Carr's been on his little tour.
Yeah, Derek Carr. I mean, this Derek Carr news is wild because the news about Derek Carr and where he's going to sign, it's being perpetrated and it's making the rounds like, and I'm not saying he's bad, right? I mean, but it's making the rounds like he's this elite guy that, is like, oh, I wonder where Derek Carr is going to go. Man, I hope my team gets Derek Carr. He's going to meet with all these teams in Indianapolis because the combine's happening.
Derek Carr had Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, and Hunter Renfrow last year, and Josh Jacobs. Okay? I'm not going to say that Derek Carr is a trash quarterback because I don't believe that. But it's like you were surrounded with more talent in the NFL than most teams have on their whole roster. From an offensive perspective. And the Raiders did not have a bad offensive line. It wasn't necessarily a good offensive line, but it was not a bad offensive line.
Well, I mean, Josh Jacobs led the leads in rushing first downs by like a wide margin. So,
and they didn't do anything. Yeah. They didn't do much. I mean, as far as pedestrian quarterbacks go, I think Derek Carr is right on that list with Kirk Cousins. Honestly, if I'm a GM, I'm probably taking Kirk over Derek Carr. I know that's going to catch some heat, but I mean, you put Justin Jefferson with Kirk, and he kind of balled out.
Yeah.
You put Devontae Adams with Derek, and he didn't. It's just one of those situations. I totally agree with you. I mean, it's like, if I'm a team, I'm probably not looking at a veteran quarterback. Like, this is a waste of your time. It's a waste of your money. These guys think that they're too hot to trot. I mean, Daniel Jones looking for $40 million. God only knows what Derek Carr is looking for after hearing that.
The audacity.
You got Aaron Rodgers living in a fucking hobbit cave, man. It's like, what the hell are these people doing, bro? Like, you're so out of touch with reality.
The darkness retreat. I've never heard of that in my life. But apparently he reportedly spent 3 days in complete darkness, like you said, in this hobbit hole thing.
I mean, look, I'm all for holistic remedies. If that helps you, if that makes you feel better, that's fine. Do your own thing. But I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of hearing about I don't care that he went and drank ayahuasca last year. I don't care. I don't care about Aaron Rodgers. Please stop talking about him. And please stop. Why do we have to hear every little romance he's in, whether he's got beef with his family? Everything I feel like I've learned about Aaron Rodgers, I feel like has been forced. I've been forced to find out.
Forced knowledge, yeah. Never sought it out. Yeah, and I don't understand how we're here again after he just signed a big contract last year or year before, whatever. How are we here again in the offseason talking about him and whether or not he's going to be in Green Bay? I don't and I think the Rodgers news, he definitely perpetuates it, right? Like, he wants to be talked about. And I mean, I
He
don't
doesn't.
blame him.
He has not wanted to be in Green Bay for 5 years. That's my honest opinion. Like, I mean, this started like 4 or 5 years ago, where every offseason it's like, is Aaron Rodgers going to get traded? Is he going to get released? Is he going to get cut? Are they finally going to fucking start Jordan Love? No, Packers fans, they're never going to start Jordan Love. Get it out of your head. Enough is enough. They'll draft somebody before he plays. I promise you that. But it's just like, where do these rumors keep coming from?
Yeah.
So clearly there's some sort of disconnect between him and the coach. My personal opinion is that he probably has like blackmail on the owner of the Packers, and that's why he keeps getting paid like this. But it's just like, I don't understand it. I mean, it's like, if we're talking about, like, we've talked about Russell Wilson as a me versus we guy. We've talked about Kyler Murray as a me versus we guy. If there's not a bigger me versus we guy than Aaron Rodgers,
Oh my god.
I don't know who is. I mean, all he talks about is himself, but then constantly complains that people are talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, a great example of that was that contract that he got. You know, he constantly complained about not having wide receivers to throw to other than Devontae Adams at the time. Then he got that major contract and they couldn't pay Devontae, so they had to trade him.
I mean, it's like, bro, between you and Bakhtiari, they're paying $500 million a year for you two players. Like what is the point? Like, I mean, it's like, you've got an offensive lineman making way more than any other player at his position. You've got Aaron Rodgers making similar to every quarterback in the top five, and it's like, you're 45 years old. You haven't won a Super Bowl in about 10 years. What are you really bargaining with at this point?
Right. Yeah, well, and you know, Good Morning Football did a spot that I was actually watching this morning on. There was like a short media thing with I think it was the Packers GM, and he was just kind of like, yeah, we're still just kind of waiting to see, and that really sucks for them. And as an organization, and as like a fan, I would be, if I was a Packers fan, I'd be pissed, because you know, now is the time where teams need to start figuring out what their plan is, but they can't, because they have to wait and see what he wants to do.
And they have to every single year. It's
Right.
been like this every year, because he either wants to retire or he wants to get traded, and it's like, okay, well, we need to know if you're going to retire so that we can either trade you or start making plans of life without you. But it's like, he doesn't care.
Right.
You know, when we're talking about, again, me versus we, Aaron Rodgers only cares about Aaron Rodgers, which, don't get me wrong, I understand, take care of yourself. But at the same time, you can't also then, like you said, complain about not having wide receivers, complain about not having an offensive line. You know, it's like, they've surrounded you with some pretty amazing defenses. The Packers have had some pretty good defenses for years. You've had some really good offensive weapons. I mean, you know, you've had one of the best running backs in the league for a while. You had one of the best wide receivers in the league for a while. What are the excuses?
And before that, you had Jordy Nelson, another great wide receiver. So
Jordy Nelson, didn't they have Geronimo Allison at one point too?
yeah.
I mean, it's like, they've had a lot of really good players at really good positions at doing, you know, Randall Cobb. I mean, Randall Cobb was a staple in Green Bay for years. And I mean, we talk about those defenses. I mean, just some amazing players playing on those defenses. Rashawn Gary, you've got Clay Matthews, you know, you've got Jair Alexander. I mean, they've got good safeties, good DBs, good linebackers, a decent D-line.
Greg Jennings was the other wide receiver I was trying to think of.
Greg Jennings, you know, like, and you've won one Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But somehow every year the team's waiting on you to decide what you're going to do. I think it's time, realistically, the Packers should just pull the Band-Aid and move on. Stop waiting on Aaron Rodgers. It's time to become the Green Bay Packers again, not the Aaron Rodgers Packers.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I thought that for the last few years. So we'll see if it happens. Doubtful, but we'll see. Speaking of other silliness, because we love talking about Jerry Jones here, the Cowboys reportedly, quote, not opposed to taking a running back in the first round. If I'm a Cowboys fan...
The first? I mean, look, I wouldn't be mad if Jerry said, oh, the second or third. Okay, I can live with that. We're going with somebody. But the first? What running back are you looking in the first round that's going to play wide receiver? Are they going to catch passes? Because outside of CeeDee Lamb, you've just got warm bodies, brother. And outside of, like... The running backs, realistically, aren't even a position of weakness. I mean, tag Pollard, cut Zeke. There you go. Sign
Right.
somebody else. Sign Fournette as a backup if you want. Sign Zeke back as a backup if you want. But drafting a running back in the first round?
Yeah, well, and this was after a report came out a few weeks ago that he wanted to keep both Pollard and Zeke. So, you know, I mean, if you keep Pollard and Zeke and then you draft somebody, that's just going to be a mess from a regular NFL perspective and especially from a fantasy perspective, if there's three running backs there, I do not want any part of that.
I ain't touching them. I ain't touching them.
Um, I know that running back committees are the thing now, and it's very hard to find like workload, like heavy workload guys for fantasy at running back position. But I mean, Zeke and Pollard are both running backs that are no slouches. So I mean, they're gonna eat into the workload. Yeah, staying away from it. Hopefully they don't.
I mean, it's like, are you going to draft somebody who's a better pass catcher than Pollard right now? No.
Right.
I mean, are you going to are you going to draft somebody who's a better rusher than Pollard right now? No. I mean, maybe Bijan Robinson becomes that guy, but it's like, why are you investing this when, like, you've got a phenomenal defense, you've got a really good offense, add a couple more weapons at wide receiver, man. Give Dak some more people to throw the ball to. It's like you just traded away Amari Cooper for a moldy bag of Tostitos. Like, draft a wide receiver. Imagine Quentin Johnston on that team, right? Jackson Smith and Jigba on that team. Like,
that's what they need. That they need a wide receiver too, and draft them. I mean, this is a good class, so
a pretty good one. And and it's like, you know, you've got CeeDee Lamb, a great wide receiver. Dude is balling out, but it's like, pass him.
Yeah.
Gallup.
Everybody is always so high on Gallup. I've never gotten it. I mean,
he was much better when they had Amari Cooper. He was phenomenal out of the slot as a number 3 receiver. He was really good for them. I don't think he's a number 2. I mean, I don't think CD's a number 1. I mean, realistically, I think they still need a wide receiver 1. I mean, CD's really good, but it's like you still need another guy on the opposite of him to pair it wide out, slot, you know, or hell, draft a slot. I mean, like, running back in the first round. Cowboy's gonna cowboy. I mean, Jerry Jones is the new Al Davis. I mean, that's just what it is.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Just lose, baby.
All right, we'll move on. Washington Commanders have released quarterback Carson Wentz. Man, he was never the same after that knee injury in that year that Philadelphia won the Super Bowl.
I mean, was he ever that guy?
You know,
I think you got to start calling into question, was it just a fluke? Like, was his success just a fluke? I mean, I'm not the biggest Carson Wentz hater. I've never been like, you know, screw Carson Wentz. Like, he seems like a good person. Like, he seems like a good dude. When he was on Hard Knocks, I found myself rooting for him. But it's like, he's not a NFL starting quarterback.
Not anymore, at least.
Could he be a decent backup? I think so.
Yeah.
But is he that guy that's going to carry you to a Super Bowl? No. He won't get you to the playoffs. He'll win you 4 games a season. Like, he's that type of dude. Probably perennial backup from this point, but I mean, I still see him getting some knocks. I mean, I think Washington was psychotic for trading for him in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's much better options out there. He's just not the guy.
Yeah. Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up a backup somewhere, but yeah, he, in my opinion, and you know, whether it was a fluke or not, we will probably never know because he did have that injury, which brought Foles in, you know, in that year they won the Super Bowl. But to me, he was just never the same after that. You know, he jumped around to a few different teams and he could just never get it to come together like he did that first part of that season. So, I'll be curious to see where he goes. Speaking of another cut, well, this is a rumored cut candidate, but the rumor mill is growing and that the Bengals are going to cut running back Joe Mixon, which... You know, after, you know, we talked about this a while back and it was kind of like some rumblings here and there. There's more and more rumblings and it's turned into a full-on rumor mill now. And it's heavily rumored that he's going to be a cut candidate. And whether the Bengals draft somebody or they sign somebody, you know, they have P. Ryan there, but he is a backup. You know, he's their third down guy, which is fine. The thing about Joe Mixon is always frustrating from a fantasy perspective because the workload is there, but the O-line just would not let anybody be successful there. So before I get super excited about whoever the Bengals find to be the running back there, I'd like to see him shore up the O-line. But there's no doubt that, you know, if they cut him and they find somebody else, it's going to be exciting from a fantasy perspective. And I also have no doubt that Mixon will get signed somewhere else to a team that needs a running back.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to the Bengals, their offensive line was hurt a lot this year too, so it's not necessarily like they were full strength. I mean, realistically, I could totally see them just drafting a running back and then just investing heavily into the O line, because that's not a team that really needs to reload. I mean, they just need to reload and shoot for the next season, because like they don't need Joe Mixon. He never really brought anything to that team that was so special. I mean, he's a good running back. I like him as a player, as a person. Obviously, he's got his issues. I agree with you. I think he'll definitely wind up somewhere. He's too talented not to. But at the same time, like, what did he really contribute to the Bengals? I mean, it's not like he was accounting for a ton of yards or a ton of touchdowns. I mean, he was a quality back for them, but it's also like when you got Joe Burrow under center. I mean, anybody can play running back effectively. You just gotta just get us a couple yards here. Joe will get the rest, right?
Yeah, well, and to your point, so in week 9 against Carolina is when he had the 5 touchdown game, right? He finished the year with 9 total touchdowns. So more than half of his touchdowns came from one game.
Came from one game.
And so after that game, week 10 was their bye week. So listen to these. This is game by game stats from that game on, basically. 20 rush yards, 96 rush yards, 21, 65, 12, 27. And then receiving yards 42, 10, 33, 43, 0, and 41. So, yeah, I mean, he had the one big game, but didn't really do much after that. And like you said, didn't really contribute to the team. I mean, over half of his touchdowns came in one game. And that was against Carolina, who, their run defense was abysmal.
I could have run for 10 touchdowns against that defense. Let's be real, bro. I could have run for 5 touchdowns against Carolina last year.
Right. So we'll see what happens. Like we said, I have no doubt he'll get signed somewhere. But yeah, like you said, the Bengals don't need him. So they'll be curious to see what they do with that position there.
And it's not like they can't upgrade. I mean,
yeah,
there are definitely pieces in this. Josh Jacobs, Saquon. Both of those guys are dudes that are better than Joe Mixon.
If either of those guys get on the Bengals, they will be top 3 fantasy
101.
picks, I'm telling you.
101. That's 101.
Yeah.
If Saquon or Josh Jacobs goes to Cincinnati, that's 101, baby. 100%.
100%.
That's 101. I don't care about injuries. I don't care about. That's 101. That's who I'm drafting.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, last couple pieces of news here. The Los Angeles Rams have parted ways with linebacker Bobby Wagner, who was famously part of the Legion of Boom in Seattle. Not 100% sure why they parted ways. I think the Rams, they just have a lot of holes. It could be a money thing, but
cap. 100%. Yeah, 100% cap. I think. I mean, Bobby Wagner is still one of the best linebackers in the National Football League. So, you're not cutting him unless it's a money thing. Was Byron Jones a part of the Legion of Boom too? I can't remember. Was he drafted by Seattle? Well, because he retired. I did want to bring up Byron Jones, but I can't remember if he played for the Legion of Boom. But he retired. Pretty surprising retirement at 30. He says he can't run or jump anymore, which is pretty.
No, he was not. He was with the Cowboys for like 5 seasons.
Byron Jones. Yeah, he retired at 30. He said he couldn't run or jump anymore because his knees were so bad. This is the same guy that we were talking about. Those crazy combine freaks. He set the world record for broad jump at the combine, 12 foot 3 inches. That's a world record. That's not a combine record. That is a world record. And it's like that dude can't run or jump anymore. It's just like nuts to think about. But in more, I guess, bad news, for Ravens fans at least, Monken has not talked to Lamar Jackson. So I don't think that Lamar is a Raven anymore. I'm not going to say he's a Falcon, and I really hope to God that they don't trade for him and trade the house, but seems like that's just not going to work out.
Yeah, I saw that report come through. It wasn't within the last few days. I want to say it was like maybe a week or so ago. But yeah, the report was that they hired, Todd Monken as the new OC, the former UGA offensive coordinator. And he reportedly had not talked to him or any of the offense, I believe. And this was like a couple weeks after being signed. So yeah, that's it's not great, Bob.
Yeah, maybe he knows something. Maybe he knows something we don't.
I don't
Maybe
know.
maybe a lot of that offense ain't coming back.
But yeah, I mean, it's the more and more like little tidbits of information, and bear with us because this time of year, this is all we're really getting to go on.
Right.
But the more like tidbits of information like this that come out, the more and more I'm convinced that Lamar is not going to be back in Baltimore. I think, like you said a while ago, they're just too far off in the guaranteed money. I've also heard a rumor that all the counter offers that he's getting are fully guaranteed. So I think it's very doubtful that he stays in Baltimore.
I
And
mean, look, he's looking for Deshaun Watson type numbers, and I think he deserves them. I mean, look, he doesn't have the pass Deshaun Watson does. He's younger. He's a better quarterback. He's more athletic. In my opinion, he's a better thrower too. I think he's a better version of Deshaun Watson without all of the extra stuff.
yeah,
And
right.
we'll call it extra stuff
Yeah,
because
right.
it's disgusting, vile POS type stuff.
Yeah.
But that is a lot of money still. 230 million guaranteed.
Yep.
I don't know many owners that want to write a check for $250 million to one guy right up front, because a lot of people don't know that with those fully guaranteed contracts, that money is put into escrow immediately. So basically, when they're like, "Here's 230 mil guaranteed," the owner of your team puts $230 million into an account in escrow because it's guaranteed. They don't want a situation where an owner goes bankrupt and they can't pay a player, so that money gets put aside and then it just sits there. So it's like, you've got to think that's an investment of $250 million right there. Right there. Even for a billionaire, that's quite a bit of money. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, not many teams want to do that. The Browns were fine doing it.
Yeah.
I personally don't see a team that's going to match what Lamar wants, but I think he'll get a decent contract. I still think it'll be in that ballpark of Deshaun Watson. But from what I've heard, I mean, the numbers are thrown around. They're saying, he was offered 160 million guaranteed, 180 million guaranteed, but he wants 220 guaranteed. Whatever, who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, doesn't seem like the Ravens are interested in giving him what he wants. So you might as well just start looking.
Yeah, I agree. I also don't know of any owners that would want to, just basically fork out $250 million right away. But at the same time, not taking that into account and just looking at the market, if Deshaun Watson's going to get that money, I think I would much rather pay Lamar Jackson that money than Deshaun Watson.
1,000%. 1,000%. I mean, there's 23, 24 reasons I can think that I would not want to pay Deshaun Watson a dime. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't think Lamar's a Raven.
Yeah.
Past this season. Now they may still tag him, but we'll see.
Yeah, that could happen. Which franchise tag, man? That's such a shitty thing to do for players.
Oh my god, I know, man.
But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I agree.
Hey, with trades in mind, let's start to transition into a little bit of hockey, because hey, look, I'm not a hockey guy, but there was a pretty big trade even I heard about.
Yeah.
On the other end of the pond.
Yep.
Patrick Kane, a player for the Chicago Blackhawks. It's the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Player for the Chicago Blackhawks gets traded to the New York Rangers.
Big move.
Huge move. The Rangers, a team that already looking pretty good, adding another player like Kane to their lineup is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
I mean, the East this year is nuts. It's an arms race at this point. It feels like.
I mean, really, and I feel like that's why New York made the move. Obviously, they want to make a push for the cup. Kane is playing out of his mind. I mean, the Rangers are currently third in their division, and Kane so far this year, this season in 54 games, he's had 45 points, 16 goals, 29 assists. So you're basically averaging just under 1 point a game. Which is crazy.
And didn't one of his teammates get traded to the Rangers like earlier this year too?
I think so. Yeah. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, I think you're right. The Rangers gave the Blackhawks a conditional second-round pick in 2023. They also gave him a 2025 fourth, and Andy Walensky, who's a defenseman, I think in one of their lower leagues, maybe.
And that second can become a first, right? That conditional pick that they gave.
Yeah, so from NHL.com, the second round pick going to Chicago will become a first round selection in either 2024 or 2025 if the Rangers reach the Eastern Conference final this season, and it's top 10 protected in 2024. So yeah, and then they also sent the Coyotes, got a conditional like third round pick in 2025 for like helping.
Yeah, shout out the Coyotes. They just said, "Oh, we'll take a chunk of that contract for a pick. Why not?" You know.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be great if the NFL was like that, man? Yeah.
Right. I mean, 3-team trades just need to be a more ubiquitous thing in the National Football. I think they need to trade more in the NFL.
Yes.
Period. I mean, you see baseball, basketball. When the trade deadline gets around, you got a lot of guys moving. It doesn't happen so much in football.
It doesn't. And, last year, the trade deadline, I feel like was very active, as far as NFL trade deadlines go.
Right.
And even then, it was still nowhere near compared to
right. It was like 6 people. And it was like,
right.
6 guys got traded.
I remember NFL trade deadlines where nobody got traded. And everybody was all hyping it up, and there was all kinds of rumors, and then nothing happened. It was
nothing happened.
The biggest buzz. But yeah, that's huge news for the Rangers. And I'm excited to see what Patrick Kane can do there. I think between the three of us, George is probably the most NHL minded. I enjoy it. I like rooting for my Golden Knights, but the Rangers, man, I think they're probably my favorites at this point for the Cup. So
yeah, I don't have a dog in this fight. I like the Bruins. I watched that game that they had where they played at the Red Sox Fenway. I thought that was really awesome, and I was kind of just like, oh wow. They look pretty solid, and then they've been pretty solid the whole year. So,
yeah. So I mean, that's really all the NHL news that we have. But let's mosey on into something I think you and I are much more looking forward to, which is MLB.
Spring training finally is here, and we have already had our first controversy.
Yeah,
we're already having our first that was not good for this sport.
Involving our very own Atlanta Braves, right?
Yeah, our very own Atlanta Braves getting screwed out of a bases loaded opportunity to win. Now, realistically, it's a spring training game. Who gives a crap? Nobody cares.
Right.
But it was a very interesting happenstance. We're bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, 2 outs, batter on deck, hit full count. I mean, literally the most entertaining spot in baseball, and it's over just like that.
Yeah.
He didn't look at the pitcher with 8 seconds left, which is an automatic strike now. He was ruled out. Game over. Now, a lot of people are confused because it's a spring training game. They end at 9 innings. They don't go into extras because why would you? Players don't want to get hurt. Makes no sense to do it. It's just a spring training game. Who really cares? But, I mean, it started to make you think about all of the implications that kind of rule could have on actual play. We're talking about the playoffs. We're talking about regular season, like pennant races. This could have huge implications if they're not able to sort of rein that in.
Totally. I mean, imagine, like you said, spring training game, who really cares, right? But imagine it's Game 7 of the World Series and that crap happens. That's all anybody is going to be talking about.
Fans would storm the field. I mean, you think the Phillies fans aren't going to storm the field? I mean, you're going to have umpires getting the crap beat out of them, dude. They're going to be getting caught in parking lots, all kinds of shit, man. It's going to be brutal. I
mean, and you thought players and coaches were getting ejected before for arguing? You better watch.
Imagine. I mean, look, it's a rule in AAA. They have it in the minor leagues. It's been I think they implemented it last year, and everybody was able to catch up, and it didn't cause a lot of problems. So, hopefully the major leagues takes the same approach, and you're not getting issues where people are having pitch clock violations. But it's just in that one instance where you're a second too late, bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth, I don't know that you can call that strike. It's just
and sorry, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, don't follow the MLB maybe as closely as we do. So they are implementing some new rules, particularly the one that we've been talking about is a pitch clock.
Yes, a 20-second pitch clock. The batter has to be in the batter's box and looking at the pitcher, I think is it 7 or 8 seconds?
I think it's 8. Yeah.
With 8 seconds left on the pitch clock. Now the pitch clock is displayed in the stadium. Both the batter and the pitcher can see it. So there's not really an excuse. Yes, by rule, the player did break the rules, and he should have been called strike. He should have been called out. I'm not advocating and saying that it's wrong. I take exception to the rule. I mean, realistically, it's like, give a player, you got to be in the batter's box at 10 seconds. I don't really necessarily see the understanding of why you have to look at him, because in my opinion, it's like, if you want to get in the batter's box at 10 seconds and then not look at me, I'll just throw a heater right down the middle and take that easy strike. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like, if I'm a pitcher, I don't need that protection.
Yeah.
Let him not look at me, please. I'll just throw it right down the middle.
Right.
I'll take the easiest strike of my career, sure. Let's boost my ERA up, no problem.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I think, so the reason why this was implemented, it was everybody always complains about how long
Kenley
baseball
Jansen.
takes.
It's
Right?
Kenley Jansen's fault. Let's be real. That man takes 45 million years to wind up one pitch. It's the most nerve-wracking shit in the world. I mean, it's like last year when you're a Braves fan and Kenley has 2 runners on base and he's taken 45 million years to wind up a pitch. There's 1 out to get. There's 1 strike left and he's just throwing ball after ball. And you're like, just throw the ball, Kenley.
Yeah, it's totally Kenley's fault.
It's his fault, 100%. That's the hill I'm willing to die on. It's Kenley's fault.
But yeah, so the whole idea was that they're implementing this rule to speed the game up, make it more quote unquote entertaining. And to their point, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a huge adjustment period, right? I think these players are going to have to just play it, get used to it. It's going to be another thing they have to take into account when they're, in their lead up and everything. So, I was reading something about how somebody was tracking it over these first few spring training games, and there was 69 violations already in the first 35 games.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. So it's going to be an adjustment period, but it is doing what they wanted to do. The average game from opening weekend of spring training last season to this season is down 23 minutes. And I think the average running was 2.5 hours. So I mean, it's shortening the game. It's doing what they want it to do. We'll see if it becomes detrimental to the quality of the game. I think only time's going to tell on that one.
See, I get why it's being done, but I think there are a lot more valid criticisms against it than there are for it. I mean, it's like, yeah, we can shorten games by 30 minutes. But what is the significance of 30 minutes in a sporting event?
Right.
I mean, do most people stay to the end of a baseball game anyway? Not really. I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, unless the game is tight up until the 9th inning, most people have already clicked away. I mean, it's like you're not going to get people staying for a game just because it's 30 minutes shorter. I think an interesting perspective I saw was actually Tyler Matzik for the Atlanta Braves came out. He said that, he thinks about the implications it's going to have on revenue for teams. Because, I mean, you got to think that's 30 extra minutes of concession sales. That's 30 extra minutes of, popcorn, candy, drinks, merch. How is that going to impact Major League Baseball? Now, maybe it doesn't do anything. Maybe it's not negative. Maybe they just up the prices, whatever. But, I have those thinking in mind. You got to think about the workers there. It's like that's an extra 30 minutes that they're not getting paid. So it's like, realistically, is that 30 minutes worth it? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But that's something that's interesting. I hadn't even considered that. But yeah, there's definitely an impact here for stadiums, Absolutely. For revenue, for teams, for employees. Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. So yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. And just as a matter of, interest, the average NFL game is over 3 hours. I think it's 3 hours and 12 minutes. So
yeah, and they pull tens of millions of viewers every year. So clearly the time limit is not the issue. I don't think it is, but
right. Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean,
just less downtime. I totally understand it, but I think ultimately, maybe it'll be a good thing. Hopefully, it means that we'll get to see more action. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah. All right, moving on to another piece of MLB news. Manny Machado
Manny Machado, the Padres man, said he was looking for a new contract because of the price of eggs.
Well, he got one.
Oh, he got one. I mean, but it's like he ever had to worry about the price of eggs. Like
Right.
Manny Machado wasn't making enough to afford to eat. Oh, okay, okay.
11-year extension, for those who don't know. $350 million, which puts him under contract through 2033, in which he will be 41 years old at the time.
Yeah, I'd somehow find a way to break my ankle every season. I gotta be honest. I paid $350 million. Hey, bud, that's me. That's mentally checked out. That's the box. I've checked it. I'm done. Sorry, I'm out.
$350 million and a full no trade clause and no opt outs. So, yeah.
Hey, I mean, Manny is a phenomenal player, but I don't know that keeping him till he's that old is really the move. But the Padres have done a lot of weird stuff. Trading and signing shortstops when they've got the best shortstop in baseball, but then when he comes back, he's gonna play a completely different position. God only knows. I mean, it's the Padres. They're not gonna win anything. That they'll look good during the regular season, get to the playoffs, and pull the Padres.
Yeah. That so the way it shakes out according to Spot Track is his yearly cash basically from now until 2026 is 17 mil a year. 2026 is 25, and then from 2027 on to the end of this contract is 39 mil a year in yearly cash. So
I mean, it's a similar type of. I mean, well, I say similar. It's still way more expensive than any Braves contract, but it's like most of those are backloaded too. So
right. So yeah, good for you, Manny.
yeah, good for you, Manny.
All right. Any more MLB news you want to touch on before we move on?
Yeah, I think that's it. Other than
All
that,
right.
we just got a couple little NBA tidbits as those trickle in. LeBron's looking like he's gonna miss 2 to 3 weeks with the injury. Skip Bayless doesn't believe it's real. And then we've got LaMelo.
Of course.
Also, I mean, of course, LeBron James is lying about injuries.
Of course, Skip Bayless tells the truth about anything.
I mean, technically, Skip tells the truth every time he talks because everything he says is his opinion. but I mean, let's be real. I mean, just because it's the truth in his perspective doesn't mean it's reality. Yeah, notorious LeBron hater Skip Bayless has said that LeBron is faking his injury. And, I'm not going to say LeBron's faking his injury. The Lakers suck, but, I'm not going to say he's faking it. I don't know why he would. What does he gain from that? I don't know. But apparently something, according to Skip. Also, in the same vein of people who have ankle injuries, LaMelo Ball will also be out for the rest of the season, though, with a right ankle fracture.
Yeah, and it was he kept having left ankle sprains. And then for it to be a right ankle fracture was both of his ankles were just jacked up, unfortunately. So,
yeah.
That sucks for the Hornets. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, he's out the rest of the season. So
yeah, and other than those injuries, I think the only other real notable NBA thing, I guess, if you're an Atlanta fan, would be they're looking for a new head coach.
Yep.
I think they're circling in on the former Jazz head coach. Let me pull that up real quick. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. I'm not gonna lie.
Quinn Snyder?
Yeah, Lynn Snyder.
Yeah. Oh, they named him.
Oh no, they just hired him actually.
All right.
Yesterday,
well, there you
a couple
go.
days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, Quinn Snyder, new Hawks head coach.
Yeah, Quinn
You
Snyder,
can tell
new
we
Hawks
follow
head
NBA extremely closely.
Yeah, super fans, obviously.
Yeah, obviously,
go to every game.
Season ticket holders, right here. All right.
Honest to God, can't tell you. I think the last time I touched a basketball was in high school.
Probably for me too, and that was only because I was in gym class and they forced me.
I've never willingly touched a basketball in my life. I gotta be honest. That's just not my sport, guys. I'm sorry.
Mine neither.
I'm not coordinated enough. I'm not that guy. Trust me, I'm not that guy.
I take that back. Last time I touched a basketball was at Dave and Buster's at the little arcade game.
Fair, fair. Yeah. Then technically, the last time I touched one was at like a bowling alley. I think.
Now, bowling is something I can talk about.
Who do you think you are?
I am. I love that clip because it makes no sense anytime.
No, never. But it's still the greatest sports quote ever.
Who do you think you are? I am. Oh man! All right. Well, you got anything else that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Huge UFC fight coming up this Saturday. John Jones is back after I want to say 4 or 5 years away from the octagon. So it's been a long time since he's fought. So if you're a UFC fan, tune into that one.
Jones. I don't even watch UFC a lot, but I know John Jones, so that's exciting.
He has 2 brothers in the NFL.
No kidding.
Yeah, Chandler Jones is his brother.
Yeah.
Arthur is the other one. Arthur might be retired. I can't remember.
Okay. No, I know Chandler Jones for sure.
Yeah, Chandler Jones is John Jones' brother.
Oh, and I guess if we want to talk about it for a little bit, Fury did beat Jake Paul, handed him his first L. So
yeah, he did.
I think I sent you the tweet that Logan Paul put out. It was like, I'll bet my equity in Prime that Jake Paul wins.
Yeah, Logan, I am here to collect your equity in Prime.
Yeah.
I am here to collect your equity, please. Give it to me.
Yeah, I will gladly own half of Prime.
Bro, I'd gladly own 1% of it, to be honest. Let's be real. I'll take any slice of the pie.
Right. No, yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think that is all we got. So we will get out of here. We will see you guys tomorrow, actually. I know this episode was a day late. Thank you for cooperating with us and, wish Georgia happy travels while he's in Scotland. But we'll see you again tomorrow with our weekly, quote unquote, funny episode. Less analytical, as Georgia likes to say.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys then. But until next time, take it easy and enjoy all of your sports entertainment. And we'll see you.
Absolutely. Then. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and then share us with somebody you love.
All those things. I'm really good at this whole YouTube thing. Can't you don't you realize that? And also check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, anywhere you get your podcasts. We should
anywhere. We're there.
And, if you would listen, download, follow, all those good things, it really helps us out, and we appreciate it. So, but until next time,
we're out.